This is an Agile release, and it's a sketch. It's my scribbly handwriting when I interviewed their teams when they wanted to do a benchmarking engagement. And we charted the story work for a mid-December through January, February, March, April, May, June period with 2 people focused on writing stories. We call that the equivalent of the requirements phase. And so the amount of effort by those 2 people over, let's see, 2 people over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 months is 11 person months. I get that by 2 people times 5.5 is 11 person months. And there's a certain amount of working hours, if you work a 40-hour work week, in 1 month. So we could compute the amount of effort that they spent in requirements and stories. They started sprint 1 here with a team of 20 people and went 1, 2, 3 months with 20 people, and then another 1, 2, 3.5 months with 26 people to build 83 user stories, 250 story points, and a certain amount of working code that delivered the functionality for those stories. So now we have 3 metrics: elapsed time, we have the effort, and then the fruits of the labor, the size of the release in terms of story points, and code. We also have bug counts. How many bugs did you find in your final QA testing here? And that's the 4th. So those of you who are joining me tomorrow in the workshop session, we're going to show you how to do it yourself, get some of the metrics on your Agile releases. You're going to do sketches like this. I'm going to show you how to draw this out and how to get the information and keep it recorded in a data record, save the file, and then we'll see whether, hey, when we finish this thing in 6 months, is 6 months longer than the industry average? Is it faster? Is it right on the middle? When you use 20, 25 people, is that a larger team of folks? Is it a smaller? Or is it right on the average? Okay? When you found and fixed 120 bugs, because the 200 number here had to be updated, there was a bunch of dupes that were double counted, is that fewer defects, more, or right on the average? So this is like the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears style of benchmarking, right? Too cold, too hot, just right. And so we drop this into the data record in our data manager library. We just pop it right in there. It takes about 3-4 minutes to put in. We'll write in a little description. We'll put all of the metrics in here, start and end date for those different phases, the peak head count, the person months of effort, the delivered functionality and stories, story points and code or what have you, or use cases or function points or whatever you want, and we'll save the file. When we do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and we want to ask ourselves a question, what were the bugs during testing against the industry average? I'm cutting to the end of the story here because that was data record for release 5.0. We had 6.0, 7.5, 7.0, 8.0, 6.5, and those are the dots against a trend line because now you know how to read a trend line. And when we put a line through Follett's data and compared it against the trend, what do you see? Are fewer defects or more? I kind of gave you the answer, right? Fewer. By about 50 to 60% below industry. So if the industry average is 100, they're finding 50 or 66. Why? What do you think? What about pair programming, for example, might result in fewer bugs in the code? Anyone got any ideas? Someone looking over your shoulder, as Payson says, to see defects as they're made. So if somebody's writing up and one person is flying and one person's writing, the other person's watching, another set of eyes. Hey, missed something here. Oh, okay. It's like an instant code review, right? Any other ideas? With this co-located team, one room? Different levels of knowledge. And there are other people with those levels of knowledge within a spinner of your chair around behind you, right? So let's say you're working on a module and you know it interfaces with another one and you've got a question about the other team, what they're working on. You say, hey, Joe, you know, I'm writing this interface to you and blah, blah, blah. Can I ask you a question about data formatting and da-da-da? You get it right away, right? Okay? So we got co-located people in one room working on one thing, What do you think happens to bugs if you multitask? They go down or up? Up. We find they go up in a dramatic way. So this is a team co-located working on one thing, right? One other thing Follett did was they said, okay, we're going to do this grand XP experiment. All of you with lots of experience, we really want you to stay. We don't want you to say, oh, I don't want to live through this. I'm going to go job shopping and put my resume out. So they kept and they incentivized their most experienced people to stick around. What do you think that does to defects? Makes it go down or up? Go down, because you have people who have deep knowledge of the lineage and the history of this code that they may be modifying because they wrote it last time. So they go right to the chase, and the young engineer who's a newbie knows to ask the most experienced person, Sally or Joe, about the architecture of it. Even if there's no spec or not a lot of comments, there are people there. So, hey, 50 to 60% below industry. What about schedule? Half. Obviously, if your Rayleigh curve is shrunken, you're going to make your date, you're going to do it. And it turned out that it was 50% faster on average. When you include the requirements phase, maybe about 60%, 40% faster, but we're still talking fast. And so this one slide was the slide that I was asked because I had half an hour to present to the CEO. They said, can you tell the whole story of this in one slide? I said, one slide? I said, this talk here has got 70 slides. One slide. So I said, all right, here it is. If you did it industry average, your cost, your schedule, your QA defects, and your staffing is this column, this is your column, that's the difference. You're doing it 4.5 months faster, 1.3 million cheaper for every release you do over, say, 7 releases in the course of a year. So if you do the math, it's what? 7 times 1.3 million less cost, right? That's a lot of money. But what's more important is they're getting to market, say, in 6 months versus 10, and they're capturing revenue for a whole bunch of months faster. So in the end, the value story of this was that they hit market share that was over 50% like crazy. Quick end of the story was they were given money to double down to expand their Agile development, and they were also on an acquisition to purchase their competitors and then transform their environments. Wow. So this one slide, as Kim Wheeler told me, she said, after this meeting, I found that that was the best day of my life. And I said, wow, really? And she said, yeah, you don't know what you just did for this company. And I said, wow, okay, that's my why. That's my why. I was able to change the lives of a whole bunch of people in a company, which was great. It was fun. I don't always get to do that. But I said, you know what? You can do it yourself. I can show you how to do it. So they started doing it themselves. So my job as a consultant usually is to try to get people to do what I do and then have them not need me as fast as I can. That's when I know I've been successful. All right, next case study. And I'm steaming along here, and I'm doing pretty well on time. We're going to have a lot of time for questions, okay? I find that audiences give you really good scores on your evaluation sheets when you finish early. So I cut function. All right, so this is